Hi, my name is Tim Yevgrashyn, and I'm an executive coach, as I call it, with extensive experience helping companies to transition at all levels. And I'm helping companies to achieve a better productivity, predictability, and better strategic focus with Kanban method over 10 years or maybe more. Today, I'm going to show you how I use Kanban Plus in my work as coach, manager, or trainer when I introduce it from scratch.
When you start working with a new client or team, how do you onboard them?
When I start with a new client, usually the whole question is to introduce them to Kanban slowly. Many clients have heard about Kanban as a generic word, but rarely about Kanban method, and it takes some time to get them to the understanding. And this is where I usually use this Kanban in numbers. And it's part of Better with Kanban book. And it's amazing material. As we can see, I can just go through. So technically, I can do it even like on screen sharing. I can turn on annotation, for example. I can even highlight some aspects here and say, okay, this is the core essence. And we work from this. If it's a one-on-one discussion, for example, or if it's a bigger group, maybe we do usually the next step. So after introduction of basics, I usually play with them in Kanban simulation. It could be something like Get Kanban if they are offline, or it's online version Kanban board game and some other analogs. So after people have it in the field, after people feel it's tangible, it becomes a question, how do we do it? So of course they can start where they are, but also it's important that at this moment it's time to talk about static. Here's a wonderful poster which walks us through all the aspects of static, and I can discuss it. I can literally have this conversation if I want to, or I usually explain what we do. So we discuss with the team. I'm preparing this maybe for workshop or just using this as a help during the workshop. So this is how I usually work with new companies that starting from scratch and have probably rarely heard about Kanban method. And this is where it helps me a lot. When we move forward, again, it's really question. So let's imagine we've done it with the team. So we have it, the team has started, they already practice Kanban and daily work, observe work in progress limits and so on. But definitely they start asking, okay, where do we go? So how good we are? And this is definitely time to talk about Kanban Maturity Model. I've done some presentations about Kanban Maturity Model where this wonderful poster, I think many of you already know it. And this Kanban pizza poster, it literally walks through the levels, and I can use this again as an image. So I can say, okay, let's discuss level 0. Sometimes I even just hide the text and I'm just like walking through and having my own explanation and saying, okay, this is the next level, this is the next level. And some people really have it just enough, but some people go deeper. This is where I can open them chapters from the book. And of course, if the discussion goes good, we can just discuss, okay, well, how do we get there, right? So we can discuss how do we observe it, how will we measure the transitions. So this is deeper explanation of Kanban Maturity Model. And of course, it's just the beginning of the conversations that we have further.
What materials do you use for the next steps when you continue working with them?
Definitely, when company started, it's very interesting with whom do I work. Sometimes I work with the management, top management, or most often I work with the team management, because as we know, you need to go team by team. You need to increase maturity on each team before you can really achieve better maturity across the company. So in this case, if I talk to engineering manager or Scrum Master, team coach, whatever you call it, it might be one-on-one session. So we have a mentoring session. I'm helping this person to improve her or his team. And definitely it continues around static. So what is good? We have it here in posters, but we also have downloads. So in downloads, we definitely have a huge helper, which is static Canvas template. So I usually just download this, open it, and we discuss how we handle the workshop. So of course, I can import this into Miro board, and then at the same time, we need to understand how he or she handles the discussion with the team. So we prepare here. Sometimes when I understand the person needs a little bit more reading, there's a wonderful static instruction. So it's a kind of guide for people who will facilitate this workshop. I've done it many times, so for me it's obvious, but definitely for some people who do it first time, it's really worth reading it through, has practical advices, and at the same time it goes back to static. So this is one of the most important helpful things here. So I can work both through material, and I can work both through materials that I use in some other cases. Sometimes if I just explain poster, I can just open my screen, as I said, and just walk through it visually in Zoom over doing some presentation with explanation. But in many cases, when you work with a bigger group, you use some external tool like Miro, Murally, TigJam, whatever your company prefer.
When the analysis stage is over, how do you move forward?
That's a good question. So when we kicked it off, the transformation goes on. And at this point, we definitely see the evolution of the company. So we see maturity evolution, which really brings us back to Kanban Maturity Model and the book around it and all the knowledge we have here. So at this point, again, sometimes we need to reference it back, and Kanban Maturity Model Pizza is really great here. So we can have a discussion. What does it mean? How do we observe a company getting here? And again, this is just the intro. So when we go deeper, especially if I talk to a manager, so let's imagine I'm talking to CTO, my usual clients, they ask, how do we see we are improving? They ask, how do we get there? How do we get to the next level? And this is where outcomes and benefits poster can help me, because it helps me to motivate people why we do transformation at all, gives them some aspiration, what would we observe on the higher maturity level, and definitely it's a long work through. So we need to discuss it. We need to say, okay, maturity level 2, something that most probably everyone wants to achieve. We say we have something, some methods, Scrum, own methodology, whatever, but is it enough to be mature? Is it enough to be disciplined? Is it enough to be predictable? And this is where the transformation continues. So it's already above level 0. And as I'm usually joking, the transition from 1 to 2 might be more interesting, because from 0 to 1, it's easy to achieve. From 1 to 2, it's probably most of the work, but of course from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4, it's still moving forward, which will take some months, maybe even a year or more.
What about barriers to adoption for the top management?
Yeah, that's a great question, because also what is important together with motivation, we need to work with them a little bit to be realistic, to work against something like lack of leadership, for example. And this is wonderful poster that unites all of it in one view. So definitely we can say that company transformation, leadership transformation, and also leadership on all level, like top management is of course, but at the same time, the team leaders or functional leaders or product leaders. And we can walk through. So once again, this poster is really just like all the materials we need. We have this discussion. I can read it myself before the conversation. Sometimes it really helps to remind it. But also, of course, if you have a like-minded person, then of course we can do it together right on the discussion and say, okay, so for example, how do we know we're getting to the level? And you see the litmus test, it's famous for questions here. So definitely we discuss with the company and say, yeah, as the management behavior changed to enable Kanban, that's definitely level 2, which is above some process, which means we already have some discipline in everything we're doing. And at the same time, we can see, no, we actually haven't done anything for that. So we definitely cannot claim we're above level 1. Okay, then we can discuss what we do there. And this poster is a great inspiration. And sometimes, as I said, like it gives us like step-by-step walkthrough, or sometimes like bigger picture. And yeah, that's great to have it all in one. And if I go back to the team level management, to the team coach, engineering manager, who is often responsible for the team transformation, at this point, I will probably talk with them more about practices, because it's also important they understand. So, for example, we started Kanban with them. They practice it, so they see it daily, and they start thinking, okay, what do I do? And this practice map sometimes could be a multi-purpose tool. So it could be really just inspiration. Okay, what do we do to get to the level 1 to 2? So can we observe something with visualization? So for example, if I say, okay, can you see different work item types? Can you see the items that longest and longest? Can you see that? And we discuss, and of course, this is the beauty of online version. It's very interactive. It's one click, you've got the data. Again, if you need it, you can quote it. You have text, you have navigation, you have everything you might need to explain people where we are and where do we go next. Often, of course, we talk about evolution change, right? So we talk about transformation. So we talk about change management. And this is where we have this poster, which is a practice map. So basically, we talk about practice map, and then we talk about barriers to adoption. So we can talk about Kanban coaching. That's might be one of discussions. But again, if I need to enable person to do something on their own, I always can reference to the posters and additional materials we have here. So we have this wonderful template. I used it many times, so definitely we start working team by team, team coach by team coach, and we start discussing, okay, where we are, where do we want to get, what will hold us back from getting there, and so on. So this is more like classical coaching I can apply here. And that's probably enough at this point.
After reaching maturity level 2, what do you do next to move forward?
That's a great question. So maturity level 2 is good enough. So it's like really good Scrum team, understanding a lot about the ways they work, but definitely it might be not enough. So it might be not the same Scrum or not the same process that we expected. So this is where we definitely need to discuss how to get level 3. And this is where we start talking about fitness for purpose. So this is where we start talking about what goes beyond just like flow process. What is value? So what is value? What does it mean to deliver value for end users? And this is where the fitness for purpose book and the poster, of course, is a great help. So fit for purpose poster was helping me a lot. So I start usually discuss product and services, and how we design this product and how we imagine delivery of this service, and where we can have a gap. And of course, we can discuss customer perspective, we can discuss stakeholders perspective, but also sometimes just explaining this concept of fit for purpose for categories of metrics. That's really helpful here. And for example, discussing the fitness criteria. And many companies, I've been through this transformation several times. Many companies, they start looking at their metrics differently. So they do understand that most of what they measure is just like a health indicator. It's not nice to have it, nice to see it. And some companies even recognize they have quite many vanity metrics. That's also a problem maybe. But that's a good discussion, good conversation. And I'm usually just opening Kanban Plus and having it right here. So of course I can download the poster if I need to use it in different medium, but at the same time, poster view itself in today's online world, it's probably one of the most helpful. And of course, if you work forward, we might, as I mentioned in my discussion about metrics, could be based on this discussion. So this poster I forgot to mention, it's really a continuation of the discussion. So what are the health indicators? What are the improvement drivers? And how do we identify these criteria? And when I come back to the engineering managers, this is very interesting. So, of course, it's important for them to know this, but usually the product management, C-level or high-level management, they're engaged in this conversation. When we speak to the product or feature or engineering team, we talk about their ability to prioritize, their ability to manage it, and still the ability to deliver. This is sometimes where we start getting back to the basic metrics, and we talk about maturity level from their ability to see and of course measure. And again, you see maturity level transition, maturity level 3. So definitely this could challenge engineering managers and Scrum Masters and team coaches. Are they really managing the flow? Because sometimes, just today I had this conversation in the morning, they say, oh yeah, we have cycle time, we have a work in progress limits, but then we look back and we say, can you forecast, can you really manage the priorities like deadlines, can you really work with this? And that means they already done this, and then we discover the gap, so they actually haven't matured above level 2. So they're still getting to the level 2, even if they claim, oh, we're already getting to the level 3. So both fit for purpose and Kanban maturity models, they definitely go hand by hand when we go on the maturity level beyond 2.
When you talk to Scrum Masters or engineering managers, do you share any materials with them so that they can analyze metrics themselves?
Yeah, so here we definitely can either send them the link. So if I talk about metrics or for example, this poster, I definitely can just copy this link, send to them, they register, and if this poster is part of the free version, they can easily use it, or maybe my company already have a the client company has already this corporate subscription. But at the same time, of course, downloadables, and they're possible to use them in my space, as I said, like some interactive drawing, and then we can have a deeper discussion around this. So I would say it's important to understand that it's a multi-purpose content, and I can use it in different formats. So in this case, drawing over it, putting stickers, discussing where we are, or maybe using this practice map just as a self-evaluation, just opening it in high resolution and then walking through and saying, okay, do we really do this? Checkbox, 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 checkbox. Do we really do that? And then clearly understanding, oh, by the way, we don't do that. So we skip the level and we need to go back and see, how can we do this in our environment? Definitely when we transition to the level above 2, it's ongoing work. It's important to remember, and it's work on all levels. So I can work with team level, a coach, engineering manager, or Scrum Master, whatever we call it. And then, of course, enabling them with materials and leaving them with something after our conversation becomes important. And again, as I mentioned, after discussion, after introduction, I usually give them this framework overview, but also we have here brochures. That's also important, and classifying metrics, because this is a practical work they have to do at home. They need to look at their metrics. They need to categorize them into what is really a fitness metric, what is really a health indicator. And this is, again, it's nice if I do it, but often people process information later. That's part of the modern world. People need time to accept the change and need to work on it at home. Especially more and more companies now, they're fully dispersed. So they're tending to asynchronous communication. And this is why having brochures and posters becomes important to give them something tangible, leave them for the homework, and sync up with them to work forward on top where they are.
When transformation moves forward, what do you introduce on the later stages, after maturity level 2 and higher?
When we continue working with the company, so I assume they achieved level 2 on most of the teams, and then definitely it's an evolution for the team. They most probably have groups of teams. This is where we definitely scale in Kanban, and then maturity level above 2 allows us to start discussing, for example, with product and management team, we start discussing cost of delay topics, we start discussing prioritization from cost of delay point and execution delivery from cost of delay point of view, classes of services on more advanced level. We also start discussing triaging. So triage tables, they are really helpful when you get there. And that's very interesting topic because definitely below the triage table, you need to have every team on maturity level 2. And at the same time, when product team, when business team starts understanding their options and how do they want to prioritize it, or maybe they understand that they too often have start something too late, and so on. And also what is important, that part of this transition is inspiring the culture. So as I always work with people to make them understand what they want to do, what they want to achieve, how to get there, but also sometimes they just need these visuals. And what is important for me personally is that all the posters I see here, they're in a very, very high resolution. So even this poster, I've seen companies been printing this on the whole wall and then staying next to it. And you see how small print is there. But of course, posters like this could be like day-to-day wall print for many people. And of course, in this case, that's important to mention, they're all A0 printable format, or sometimes smaller, but at the same time, it's good quality, good resolution in downloadables, and additional information that I can find here in poster view, additional text, which might be more important than seeing what is there.
What is the functionality of Kanban Plus that you use the most?
Yeah, as I said and will say many times, so Kanban Plus for me is a really hands-on tool, because it gives me access on my fingertips to all the information I have in multiple books. So we have this Better with Kanban, really good to the conversation when companies or people start transforming their teams. And I use poster view usually in my direct conversation. So I use it sometimes just for myself to prepare for conversation, prepare for the workshop. And I can look through description, so I can just remind myself what is important to talk about. I can even read book chapters, which is also really great. The book is right here. I have it printed, but I have my computer maybe most of the times and the book next to me. And in the poster view, I can use it even during the conversation. So for example, if I explain this Kanban Maturity Model, I can literally just hide everything and use Kanban Maturity Model as a guide through. And then I click here, and it's actually possible to navigate here. So I can scroll through just as a walkthrough. So just walking one by one and discussing this topic. So people see it's highlighted, I'm explaining this. Sometimes I just do this. So I open it, and when we're in Zoom or some other online call, I just start the annotation and I start drawing and say, okay, we clearly see that we start here, which is good, but at the same time, we see that it's important maybe to improve our processes, for example, or think about serviceability, and so on, so on. So drawing over it, saving this as an image, and then sending the follow-up to the conversation, that becomes very interesting and important use case that I can again do right here. And of course, I just can send them the link. So I can just copy the link, send it. For most of the posters that are available in the free subscription, they can just log in and see it. Yes, it's a little bit of nudging to maybe consider the full subscription, because full subscription gives you the book, it gives you additional downloads, it gives you videos, it gives you additional articles, case studies. This amount of material I cannot find anywhere else, and that's also maybe important. So downloads, as we mentioned, is really cool to print. So for example, some of them are printable just as a leaflet, so I can print and put next to my workplace. But some of them are really printable as a big canvas. So for example, this canvas I often print on A0 or at least A1, and then I use it through the physical workshop. So people can put the real stickies on top of this, and that's really helpful and really colorful, which is great. And of course, some brochures I can give away, and I can make this possible for people who I enable, who might not yet have access to Kanban Plus, but at the same time, we need them to move forward. They have these materials with license and permission. And at the same time, I would advise every company who consider real Kanban transformation just to get a company subscription. It will be the easiest and cheapest investment they've done over the year.